Hey everybody, Allison here, and in today's video, I want to talk about Microsoft. So the reason why I find Microsoft interesting is, of course, it's in an overall bearish trend, and unlike some of its other counterparts, where on the recent bounce up that we've seen in the market, a lot of these symbols like Apple or Tesla were able to break back above their 10-period simple and try and hold it as a support, even though they're in bearish trends. Microsoft, however, on this bounce up, one, very short-lived. You can see it dropped right back down. And two, it continued to hold the 10-period simple as resistance. It was almost like it was testing it today and then stalling. As you can see here, the 30-period simple is starting to roll off the 100, the 10-period's below both, so we're in a stack down formation. Bollinger Bands are still pointed lower. There's still room for momentum to the downside. So all of this looks good to potentially continue lower, or at the very least, go down towards 220 to test that as a potential price support level like we've seen in the past. The other thing I really like about Microsoft is we actually have a weekly squeeze setting up, with overall bearish signals currently on the compound breakout tool, with momentum getting a great reset to the zero line and then starting to drop back off with room to move lower. We have a valid bearish divergent bar from last week at 219. And of course, this once again is an overall bearish trend. So if we do start to see movement pick up to the downside off of CPI later in the week, I think Microsoft could be one that starts to move down. Few things to be mindful of with this, and depending on how you want to trade it. The first is you could just give yourself some time. Earnings is later in January. Maybe you go with the idea that we actually sell off into earnings instead of run up. And you could go out of the money, right? Maybe the 210 or 215 with a long put, depending on what's within your risk tolerance, with the idea that if we do move down to kind of these lows that we've had in this range, you should be right at or very close to it in the money to lock in a quick profit. The reason why I don't mind going slightly further out of the money, even the 210 strike, even with what we're seeing, is because earnings, right? At least if it's before earnings will maintain value on this. You won't see as much of a reaction to theta decay as you would if you went with this week or next week's expiration because of the uncertainty around that news. So that will help keep the value tied up in these options as long as you close it out prior to the earnings announcement. You could also look at going with a spread, right? Something like the 225, 220 for 3 weeks out is about $1.87 cost basis, 313 max profit potential, not a bad risk versus reward. And of course, if within the 3-bar rule, you follow through with a lower low down to 219.35 based off the weekly bearish divergent bar, it would put this spread completely in the money and allow for a quick profit. If you get the immediate follow through from the daily bearish divergent bar, and go down into that range and stall, you could, of course, always look to close this out early for the quick win, or potentially profit recycle into something and set up a bonus trade to hold through the earnings announcement itself. But either way, I think Microsoft is certainly an interesting setup. I would be mindful of right around the 220 range acting as price support, just because we've seen it in the past. And because with CPI being on Thursday, we might get a little bit of chop going into that news event itself before we get a bigger market move. But I like the more bearish sentiment that we're seeing here compared to some of the other bigger names. And I like how it held resistance here with that weekly squeeze. So I wanted to just point out a few of the things that I'm watching on this and give y'all a couple different trade ideas to consider, depending if you want to be a little bit more conservative on your levels, or if you want to give yourself a little bit more of a potential profit going with that long put. As always, may the trade be with you, my fellow Jedis, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye, guys.
Hey, Allison Ostrander here, Director of Risk Tolerance at Simpler Trading. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and comment down below to help us out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you can get notified when we release our next video. And if you want to watch us trade in real time using our own money, go to simplertrading.com to learn how to sign up. As always, may the trade be with you, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.